With the 12th pick in the 2018 NBA Draft, the LA Clippers select Miles Bridges from Michigan State University.
G'day guys, Grazy back with another NBA season preview. Today we're looking at the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets are coming off a season in which they finished 36 and 46. That is a really tough spot to be in the current NBA. You're not quite in the playoffs, but you're not quite losing enough games to get the top picks in the draft. It can be a spot you can get stuck in for a number of years, and that seems to be where the Hornets are, just stuck in that middle ground limbo. Hopefully this year's draft pick, Miles Bridges, acquired on a draft night trade, can be that guy who can help turn this franchise around. They need some help for superstar Kemba Walker. Kemba suited up 80 times last year for 22.1 points, 5.6 assists on his way to his second All-Star game. Kemba's on so many underrated, overrated, is he rated fairly lists that I think he's rated quite fairly. He's a star, 22 points. He does everything he can for this team, but what he needs is a number 2 option. Last year they had Dwight Howard, another failed Dwight Howard experiment. He lasted one season and done. He looked pretty good at times last year, looking a bit like young Dwight, but again he wore out his welcome and he was swiftly traded at the end of this season. Where the extra points come from this team's where the real battle lies. Backing Kemba Walker up is Nicholas Batum. Nicholas Batum suited up 64 times last year, 11.5 points, 5.5 assists, 4.8 rebounds. He's a very, very solid NBA player, but I feel ever since he signed that big contract, he's just slowly gotten worse each season. I thought he was going to be a superstar in this league, and at $24 million, which they owe for 3 more years, they need more production out of Nicholas. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, 74 games last year, finally put together a healthy season, 9.2 points, 4.1 rebounds. Very athletic, very long, very good defender. He just doesn't have enough offense. He needs to add another shot to that game. He needs to extend his range and become a reliable scorer. 9.2 points. I think he has a bit more talent than that. Marvin Williams, 78 games. He's in the 9.5 points, 4.7 rebound range as well. Marvin's had a pretty solid NBA career, whilst never really living up to such a high draft pick that he was. He's another guy, he just doesn't quite give you enough offense. Hopefully this year he can string it all together. Cody Zeller is slated to be the starter on this team, replacing Dwight Howard. Cody's a rock-solid NBA player, put up 7 points, 5.5 rebounds, but he did only suit up in 33 games last year. For ESPN's projected starting 5, there's just not enough firepower in that team. You've got Kemba Walker, Nicholas Batum, and 3 guys averaging less than 10 points per game. They need another guy to step up and take the load off. They need a guy in that 17 to 18 points per game night region to help out Kemba. They're hoping they got that with the 12th pick in the draft in Miles Bridges. The 6'7" Michigan State man was averaging over 17 points and 7 rebounds in 34 contests at the college level last year. Miles looks like a very athletic NBA player and looks like he could step straight into start, but most likely he may come in as the 6th man to try and give this bench some firepower. The bench also features Jeremy Lamb. Played 80 games last year, a tick under 13 points and just on 4 rebounds per game. Jeremy can come on and score with the best of them, and they need another big year out of him. Malik Monk coming into another season, and they would like to see a bit more improvement out of him this season and building on last year, and hopefully he can become another reliable player. One of the most surprising developments of the off-season was the Hornets acquiring Tony Parker for 2 years. The lifetime Spur parted ways after what seems like 1,000 years with that organisation. That would be one of the most shocking developments of the pre-season, was seeing Tony Parker in this Hornets outfit. He played 55 games last year for 7.7 points and around about 3.5 assists per game. I thought Tony would retire as a Spur and never even thought it was in question, so to see him in a new uniform is going to take some getting used to. He's a veteran who's been in a very, very good system for a very long time. It'll be interesting to see how he fits in with this team and what he brings along. The team's also got the reliable Frank Kaminsky. Frank the Tank played 79 games last year, good for over 11 points and 3.5 rebounds. He's just a rock solid NBA player. I think what you see with him is what you're going to get. Bismack Biyombo suited up in 82 games, 5.7 points, 5.7 rebounds. This is another one of those guys who earns a lot of money, $17 million a season, and they're on the hook for 2 more years. Big Biz at times can look like he can dominate the boards and provide a decent option for you, but he just doesn't do enough to justify that $17 million for me. Backing up in the centre position, you've got Willy Herner-Gomez. He looked good at times for the Knicks and even last year with the Hornets after they acquired him. He looks like quite a skillful big man, and I'd actually like to see what he could do if he got a few more minutes. And this might actually be the team where he gets to get a bit more touches and show exactly what he can do at this level. Rounding out the roster, you've got the likes of Dwayne Bacon, hopes to build on last season, and Devontae Graham. Hopefully that bench can provide some support because it seems to be quite long, and hopefully they can help out. So that's the roster. Where does that leave the 2018-19 Hornets? Unfortunately, I think it leaves them very much the same as last year. In that 36 win range, they've got a long roster. They're quite a competitive roster with a lot of guys who play hard, but they just haven't got the talent to put them over the edge in most contests. They'll be competitive in most games, but I just can't see where the improvement comes from this year. A lot hangs on Miles Bridges. He's the hope for this team, but he sort of cancels out losing Dwight Howard from last season with his production. I don't think they've got enough to get into the playoffs this season, even with the weekend East. If Miles Bridges is as good as advertised, maybe they can push for that 8th spot, but I just don't see it. What do they do with this team? Does a Kemba Walker trade finally happen? Kemba's been mentioned as being traded, I think 4.5 million times in the last few seasons, and I'd actually like to see what Kemba could do on a contending team. He's been known his whole career for being able to hit that big shot, and I'd actually like to see it. I think the NBA needs to see Kemba on the big stage in the playoffs to see what he can do, to show that he is actually a star in this league. So I think they have a very similar season to last year, around about that 36 win mark, knocking on the door of the 8th seed for the playoffs. But what do you guys think? What do they need to push them over the edge? Or do you think they've got enough talent there? I would love to hear from you in the comments. Thanks very much for watching. If there's any feedback or any comments, feel free to pop them in the comments tab. If you liked it, think about giving it a thumbs up, maybe even hitting the subscribe button. Thank you very much for watching.